Welcome to Meaningful Mondays with the Community Foundation of Middlesex County, where we only know good people who do great things in our community. Whether you are a volunteer, a donor, or a nonprofit organization, each episode of Meaningful Mondays will celebrate you, our friends and neighbors who have a deep passion for and commitment to improving the quality of life for all in Middlesex County. So let's kick off the week with great conversations with remarkable people, businesses, and nonprofits making a difference right in our own backyard. Well, good Monday morning, everyone, or whatever day you're listening to this. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Meaningful Mondays at the Community Foundation of Middlesex County. And you know, we only know good people who do great things. And I am so honored to have Kasey Harding with us today because, Kasey, you embody that phrase and then some. Your heart is full of gold and you are the most caring person we know here at the Community Foundation. So let's start with that. So first of all, I don't know how you do what you do because you're director of CHC's New Horizons Domestic Violence Program, which has the, the New Horizons Shelter. You're part of the Middlesex United Way's homelessness, prevention fund. You're a mom, your wife, you work, you do it all. And you're connected with us in many, many, many ways. So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Philanthropy is your middle name. And I know you're instilling that in your children. And I know your family has instilled that in you. So tell us how the Harding family got to have these big hearts to give back to the community.
Well, I'm sure, as everyone probably knows, my dad, Peter Harding, ran St. Vincent de Paul Soup Kitchen for 15 years. And it was kind of funny. So, as I was growing up, he was building a copier company and incredibly successful businessman. And my brother and I both worked there, and our friends all worked there in college. And then he retired, which we put in quotations, and went and decided to run the soup kitchen for 15 years and did it just unbelievably well and expanded it. He was there when Amazing Grace Food Pantry became part of the soup kitchen. And, just really reflected for me what I wanted to be in the world, a vision of, helping people in an honest way, getting to where they were and that kind of thing. And then, I was lucky enough to always have found things. I worked in California for a while, working with people with developmental disabilities. And then when I moved back to Connecticut, to start my family, I, just happened upon Tabor House, which was a residence for people with HIV. And then Community Health Center came up, and you graciously speak of me, but I have the best job in the world. It's a job that's flexible, creative. I do something different every day. It's just the most amazing work.
There you go again, being so modest. And I told you at the beginning, this is your turn to brag. So I would turn that around, Kasey, and say they are so lucky to have you. So yes, they are. And we are so lucky to have you in our family. So tell us a little bit about New Horizons and what you do. And I'm sure that there are many folks who don't know about it, and they should.
Yeah. So New Horizons, I'll be honest, I had been at CHC for about 17 years and had done pretty much what I thought was everything, a little of everything. Never had stepped into the domestic violence world, and kind of not on purpose, but wasn't something I was particularly interested in. And then the director was stepping down and they really needed some leadership. And Margaret Flinter came to me and asked me, and I said, sure, because I usually do. And what
yes, you do.
Yeah, what an experience it has been, because all of the things you hear about domestic violence, all of the statistics, nothing compares to hearing the personal stories of people trying to escape something, trying to heal from violence, trying to protect families. I always say, I thought before that I could write a book, and now I know I could write a book, because the experiences of the people I get to work with are just incredible. And CHC, is a healthcare organization, but at its heart, the mission is that social the vehicle for social change. And so they've really allowed us to expand it. So in Middlesex County, we have a 24-hour hotline. We have a 24-hour emergency shelter. We have rapid rehousing programs. We have child and court advocacy programs, really anything you can think of around protecting and supporting and creating safe places for people who have experienced violence.
And I don't think that most people know that you cover all of Middlesex County. So tell us a little bit about that. And then I'll before you do, I'll just say all the things that you told me, we take for granted, but you are putting a warm blanket around that person who is fleeing domestic violence and helping his or her family do that too. So we're so lucky to have you to be there to support them. So Middlesex County, I don't think people really realize domestic violence is everywhere.
It's everywhere. And unfortunately, we thought after COVID, we would get a little reprieve, and it's the opposite. We're running at about 300% of capacity.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which means, and you all have been so supportive of us, because what that means is when we don't have a space and shelter, we have to go to hotels or other places. We have to make sure they're secure and safe. But we also, as you can imagine, when you put a family in a hotel, it's really hard to make it homey and warm and to engage with them adequately. So all of those things, but we go all through Middlesex County. So we're down on the shoreline where, the majority of our calls come from Old Saybrook and Westbrook, and then up here, Middletown, Portland, East Hampton. But you'd be shocked at how many towns have incidents where we need to go in and help, law enforcement to help someone be removed from a situation and take them to safety. And it involves, I think this always gives me a little bit of perspective. When you think about someone who makes the decision to leave a domestic violence situation, they generally can't take their car, their job, their phones, and you think about what your phone has in it. So for safety purposes, they have to leave every single thing, sometimes their clothing and personal items, definitely pictures, they can usually take a bag. And so when you think about restarting, you've built a career, you've built a home with someone, you love someone who potentially is abusing you, you have children with someone, and you have to leave all of that to go live in a shelter and kind of rebuild your life from the ground up. And so that requires, a lot of loving support and a lot of resources and a lot of healing that, we're lucky enough to be the ones to provide. And we have the most amazing staff over at New Horizons. So if you call that 24-hour hotline, you're going to get someone who is not just trained in domestic violence, but who knows, a lot of them with lived experience, unfortunately. But they know what resources are there, what you need at that moment. Is it a safety plan, or is it just a kind voice on the other end of the line? It's really pretty amazing, the work that they do over there.
It sounds like you have a 360-degree view of everything. So talk to me a little bit about, and I don't want to leave my second statement out because I'll forget, the partnerships that you have in each of the towns. You mentioned the law enforcement people. And then my other thing is, if somebody listening is in a situation, how do they get a hold of you? Because I think that's the most critical thing.
And that is actually one of the hardest things in domestic violence is, well, it's what we call a hidden population. And so I'm going to, if it's okay with you, just say our hotline number right here, which is 860-344-9599.
Say it again, please.
860-344-9599. And that's a number that, as I said, you can call that number if you want to leave a situation. You can call that number if you want to know if what you're experiencing is domestic violence. You can call. We have adolescents sometimes who call and say, I have a friend and this is what I'm hearing. Do you think they need help? That hotline is for anyone, anytime. If for some reason you call it and you're from Hartford or another area, we'll make sure you get to the right region. And I think that's a really important thing to have in your back pocket. The other thing is that we have community partners all over the place, and some of them are like you. We all of a sudden have 10 people in shelter and we don't have the resources. And one of the things I love, you all helped us find a fund that we could access, that we were able to get people their own bedding. So if you think about it, you leave your situation with nothing and you come to a shelter, and we had these wonderfully donated, stained, awful sheets that we'd been washing for 20 years. And instead, what we do now is we go get a bed in a bag, and we are able to provide everybody with a comforter and a sheet set and 2 brand new pillows. And you don't think of that as a basic need, but when someone comes into shelter at midnight and I want to tuck them safely into a bed and make them feel cared for, there's nothing like saying, please choose out of one of these, and making up their bed for them and getting them a meal, and then literally tucking them into bed and saying, you're safe, we're going to watch out for you. So, community partnerships like the Middlesex Foundation, but also law enforcement who, connects with us. We have schools where we go in and we do prevention trainings with them. So what does it look like to date safely? What does it look like to identify? I can't tell you how many times we go into a high school and a kid will come over to us at the end and say, oh my gosh, I think I have domestic violence happening in my house. And they just didn't know what to call it or where to look for resources. And so those kind of things are really important. And as I said, every time I say that hotline number, it's my hope that it gets stuck in people's brains, because it's not just a resource for something catastrophic. It's a resource for a question that you might have.
Well, it's a resource for all of us in the community to know, just in case, because we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But so you're educating, and starting the process early so that people can recognize this situation and put a label on it. I think that so often if we don't have a name, a hook to put our hat on, then we will brush it aside. Oh, I'm just making this up, kind of thing. So that, and then establishing the community partnerships is critical. And you can always call us. And I think you struck it home to me, where being able to select what sheets you want to put on a bed is something we take for granted.
Yeah. And very often, if I could just say one more thing to sort of the whole domestic violence and outreach, we tend to have a lot of stigma attached to it.
Right.
Well, you must, and victims often have a lot of stigma. Well, it's me. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
And the more we talk about domestic violence, the more we go into a school, the more safety we provide for people to have those conversations. And that's what we want. This is not something anyone needs to be ashamed of. And it's not something that there's not help for. But sometimes we, as a society, I think we kind of bury these things a little bit, and we need to get it out there. We need to talk about it. And one of the great things we have is we have survivors who go out and they just march to the beat of their own drummer, telling their stories, telling people to get help if they need it, helping them to ask those questions. And it's really an amazing job I get to do.
Well, you're the amazing person that makes all the great things happen. So it's 860-344-9599, right?
And 24 hours a day.
860-344-9599, and we'll make sure that we post that. So, oh my gosh, you're just amazing. So segue to your family, because we know you on multiple levels. Okay, so you're a grantee of ours, and we're proud of that. But you also turned it around and you set up a fund here to honor somebody near and dear to you. So let's hear the story of Eileen.
Yeah. So, in my professional dealings with you all, I just, we share such a great mission, and I love spending time with you all because I feel like there's such a warmth and engagement. And so I reached out and said, on a more personal level, could we do something to honor my cousin Eileen, who, when she was 19, they diagnosed an arteriovenous malformation, which is sort of like a series of blood clots in her brain. And she had surgery, she had a bunch of different things, but she had one major surgery that resulted in a stroke. And so it left her with some significant disabilities. which she just powered through. And I don't think until she was gone, we ever realized how hard that probably was for her to do everything we did to keep up with, running, chasing the kids and swimming with us and going on vacations, but to do it all really having to concentrate and take care of herself physically in ways that we couldn't even imagine. And unfortunately, she passed away 6 years ago in August. And when we talk to the kids, I'm big on death is sad, but I really, really wanted her legacy to be something positive. And the kids said, what if we could help other people? Not necessarily just like Auntie Eileen, but what if we could help people who maybe have no other resource? And because that was her thing. She loved what she called the lost cause was her thing. And so anybody who, was a little quirky knew to go to Eileen. And so we did that. And my kids were really instrumental in donating their own money and working for it. And my parents, donated to it. And it's just a way for us. And we called it the Fearless Fund because Eileen she just plowed through everything. And I wish I had appreciated that more about her when she was alive. But now that she's gone, I see all of these experiences I got to have with her where she was just the bravest person I know. And this is exciting for us.
Well, and it's exciting for us, and it's exciting that it's almost like the legacy of the Harding family, your parents, and now you and your husband, and now the kids are just carrying out that. And what I love, to be honest, is that you're trying to take care of the people we might overlook and just not pay attention to. So my gosh, and I'm just thinking of the positive ripple effect that has had, and will continue to have on the community. So words of advice for somebody, just from a family perspective, and getting your kids or siblings engaged in philanthropy. Because I just, sometimes we forget, we take for granted what we have.
Yeah. And I think for us, it always comes down to meeting people where they're at. And I'll be honest, my cousin Eileen was a very big factor in us really realizing that we needed the kids to understand on a deeper level that we're all humans. We all have, healing that we have to do and things that we need to work on. And that sometimes it's through money, but other times it's through giving money to someone who might not think they deserved it or think that they were, I think sometimes we get caught up in that the piece of it that's kind of facing the public or whatever. And that's not always where it's at. Sometimes it's just people who need to feel loved and cared for and like enough. And that's something I learned from my kids, but I also learned it from the domestic violence shelter and from my patients in the Center for Key Population, where, the littlest thing is important and it makes them feel, and like you said, it's a perfect example, choosing your own sheet set.
Oh my gosh, I would never have considered that to be a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, when you think about it and, sharing the gratitude of what you have, and then thinking about those who don't have the opportunity to pick out a pink or a blue sheet today.
Yeah, absolutely. And for my kids, I think they've had the privilege of working alongside of me in a lot of these places. So whether it's an HIV testing event or it's in one of the shelters where we provide healthcare to people who are experiencing homelessness, or at the domestic violence shelter, they've gotten to see how real it is, how everybody has their struggles, including us, and that we're really just very foundationally, we're all human beings and we all deserve love and care. And so they've been really lucky that they've seen that a lot in practice through the people I work with and the events they attend, through people like you who helped us set up this fund that is, for us is a really important legacy for my cousin. And it allows us to talk about her in a way that is, that's still moving forward, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a teaching moment that will go on forever and ever and ever when people hear the story of Eileen and then the story of how you and your family got engaged and started it. And we're honored, again, we're always honored to be with you, but we're honored to be part of that. So, lessons learned over your career, which is, I have to say, so amazing. And your heart must be really full when you go home at night because of the things that you do. And I hope you do take care of yourself.
Yeah, I absolutely do. And because one of the things you do when you're in my position is I have a lot of people working for me in really, really difficult jobs. And
Mhm.
I can't proclaim self-care and then not demonstrate it myself. And so that has kind of had me step back and make sure that, but it's also and again, and I know I'm not being humble, but when you do a job like this, the rewards are so much greater than any effort I have to put in. But I also will say working for an agency like Community Health Center where, it's not crazy to throw an idea out there. We recently said our dream was a mobile health unit where we could just drive to anyone who needed health care. And our CEO, Mark Maselli, said, well, we'll do it. How do we do it? What are we going to do? And we now have 2 mobile health units that go up to subsidized housing or into the Walmart parking lots. Or my favorite is when we pulled up to Dunkin' Donuts to get coffee, not to do anything. And we got 13 people who came right over and said, well, what are you doing there? What can you help us with? And it was amazing. And so,
Oh,
that's a privilege for me to work for an organization that said they're yes, they say yes. So
and if you ask people to help you, I have never asked anybody to I need or said I need your help where I've been turned down ever, 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 ever. So I guess I'm fortunate in that way. So how can we help you? I mean, let's be specific. How can we help you do even more than you already do?
yeah, I think, there's a lot of ways. I think obviously financial donations are always appreciated. And the
Sure.
one thing I will say that I learned a little bit is, unfortunately, because of bed bugs, we can't take as many donations of clothing and things that we used to. So we started asking for gift cards. And the thing that gift cards give us, especially at New Horizons, but even with some of our other patients in the shelters, again, that ability to go into Walmart and pick out their own underwear instead of
Right,
coming to me and saying, I
right.
don't have any underwear. And that sounds crazy, but that has made a difference for us having that. The other thing is, we do a walk every October. This year it's on October 8th. And it's really to raise awareness of the hotline, to let people know we're here. But it's also to show up the people who take advantage of our services that there's a community around them that cares about them. So yes, you give your donation to do the walk and you wear your purple, but you're also there in solidarity for what they stand for and what we are not going to watch people be abused anymore. We are going to stand up and fight for them. And I think that's a really important thing that Middlesex County, but especially Middletown, is phenomenal at that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've worked in a lot of different counties, and I will say that I think this one has a heart as big as from Cromwell down to Clinton and
Yep,
across the river. So we
absolutely.
do cross the river. I think the heart is really big. So
Yeah.
I hope you're going to get some downtime. And then what are you looking forward to over the next couple of months?
Well, that's another area I'm really lucky. So actually on Friday, I'm leaving on vacation. We go to Newport, Rhode Island,
Ah,
and
nice.
my parents have a condo and my brother and I have a condo and my cousins and my aunt, Eileen's mom. And we all just go and we kind of cook meals and we go down to the pool and we play a lot of cards and board games. And it's just the best time ever. So we're there for a
Hang
whole week
out.
together.
Well, you know what? I'm humbled by what you do. I'm astounded by what you do, but I really shouldn't be knowing you. And I thank you for what you do. So 860-344-9599. We will try to make sure that everybody knows that number. And Kasey, thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
You are the best. You take care.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Meaningful Mondays. At the Community Foundation of Middlesex County, we know that philanthropy matters and philanthropy works. Together, we support the arts, education, human services, animal welfare, the environment, heritage enhancements, and so much more by providing services, programs, and grants to our local nonprofits. We invite you to learn more and share your passion with us. Visit us at middlesexcountycf.org or contact us at 860-347-0025. Together we can make great things happen.